A little bit about the title, DeFi Untapped. We have an exciting variety of panelists today in the realm of on-chain data, venture capital, and then a really fun opportunity to talk about yield strategies, what's going on with ApeChain. I'd like to welcome Jordan Calinoff, who is with Full Moon Labs, building out ApeChain. And we'll do an introduction briefly, but I like to always preface it. We got Spencer Swanson with Plug and Play, venture associate there. And then we've got Brian June with Chain Stats. So yeah, go ahead and grab a mic so we're good to go. We need a little mic.
We could speak really loud. There we go. There we go.
Good.
Yeah,
We're working.
Oh, that's perfect. Great sound. All right, guys, let's go around the room. Jordan, just give maybe 1 minute elevator pitch on yourself and your company.
Yeah, sure. So, I spent quite a few years at Horizon Labs, and Horizon Labs was chosen by the ApeCoin DAO to build out ApeChain. And basically started working on it through Horizon Labs. Just recently left, started Full Moon Labs, and now we're working directly with the Ape Foundation to build ApeChain. It's going to be massive. We're looking at all sorts of great partners integrating on day one. And we're looking at some really interesting RWA yield opportunities that are going to be on ApeChain as well. So that was one of the things I'm looking forward to talking to everybody about today. But if you guys are wandering around, make sure to go to the ApeCoin booth over there and learn more about ApeChain. It's launching this summer, and we really think this is going to be probably the biggest chain launch of the year. So get out there and learn about it. And if you want to get involved as builders, come see me or any of the other people over at the booth over there.
Yeah, and we have an interesting variety of panelists that are part of the ape community, whether it's a mutant ape, bored ape. So it's going to be fun, kind of, if you follow the progression of our discussions. So let's go, Spencer. Go ahead and.
Hi, everybody. My name is Spencer. Thank you so much, Zachary, for the invite. I'm a ventures associate at Plug and Play Tech Center, focused on crypto and digital assets. I'm based in Silicon Valley, California. Plug and Play has 2,000 portfolio companies. We are the world's largest innovation platform. We have 37 unicorns in our portfolio. In the Web3 space, our claim to fame is that we were the first check in block daemon. And we are really interested in the Web 2.5 space. We write checks around 50 grand to 200K in the pre-seed, seed, and Series A range. We also have an accelerator in which Galileo protocol is being incubated, and they're going to be presenting in Silicon Valley later in June. And yeah, really excited to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. And let's go to Brian.
What's going on, everyone? My name is Brian, and I'm the founder and CEO of Chain Stats. I've been in the space for 7.5 years now, and Chain Stats is an on-chain data provider. We provide a suite of tools for analytics, data aggregation, and multi-chain consensus. Our user base consists of retail and institutions, but we also provide support for entrepreneurs who want to utilize blockchain technology for their products and services.
And just a little backstory. I've known Brian for years. We have kind of, I've always referred to him and then the community they built at Chain Stats as our bear market buddies, because we went through like those low points, and I think we're emerging from those. So anyways, you can't really talk about real world assets without the implications that they have on DeFi. And, when you take these physical assets, whether it's artwork or diamonds or a motorcycle, and you put them on chain, all of that data is available. And so that's why we have this kind of culmination of variety of people that have touches in the, maybe not specifically DeFi with venture capital, but kind of have, those they've got their feet in the water as far as DeFi goes. So yeah, if you want to hand the mic to Jordan. Sure. So get into a little bit about what you're doing with ApeChain, and kind of, we discussed on the side some yield strategies, and
yeah,
we don't have to go super into the weeds on those, but no, I'm curious.
Well, yeah. So I mean, obviously, all of this type of stuff is going to have a major place on ApeChain. The idea of luxury goods and branded goods. There's going to be a massive place for people to come to. There's going to be marketplaces, and hopefully we're going to work with Galileo on part of that as well. But one of the interesting things that we're working on is like native yield and native stablecoin yield on ApeChain as well. And this is kind of modeled after, if anybody's explored Blast at all. But basically the idea that if you bridge a stablecoin over to ApeChain, on the back end, it puts it into a stablecoin yield generating protocol. And without doing anything, you're generating yield on it. So, from a kind of DeFi degen perspective, kind of interesting. But when you think about, what ApeChain and what we're trying to do there in creating kind of a theme park with tons of games and trying to bring in new people that maybe aren't crypto native, that's actually a really big deal, right? Like, let's say you want to, okay, I'm throwing $1,000 on here to play games. Well, you're not losing out that opportunity cost for that $1,000 to be invested in something, earning you yield. And I think that this is going to become like a massive trend with almost every chain in the industry. There's no reason it shouldn't be. And when you think about that in a really broad spectrum, that's going to change the way everything works in terms of businesses all around the world, right? Like anytime you run a small shop in some country and you get, paid in digital currency at some point, automatically you're earning yield on that. That changes, accounts receivable, accounts payable. It changes all of that and makes finance, which, my background is traditional finance, it makes finance way more efficient, which is kind of the goal on it. So I think it's a really cool thing to think about, that something as fun and wild and crazy as ApeChain is really going to be at the forefront of how finance in the world is going to change things too. So
yeah, it's that perfect combination of the sophistication and degen nature of it. And like, this space is very funny in that you have some of the most elite as far as minds in finance working on stuff at the same time. Of you got a picture of a monkey. Like, to simplify it as basic as it gets, you got a picture of a monkey. And
well,
it's
with that, like, getting involved in the ape community and meeting so many apes, most apes are, entrepreneurs, builders. Many of them have been really, really successful, wealthy entrepreneurs, and they all want to do something to, grow the audience of crypto and blockchain. So it kind of makes sense that something like ApeChain will be where the next big use case that brings on the next 500 million people on the blockchains comes from too, in that way.
Yeah. And speaking of kind of what the next, maybe crypto is such a crazy space, with 3 years feels like 10 years, but in the next, 3 to 5 years, as far as venture goes, what are you noticing as far as trends go, real world assets, or, kind of what Jordan's describing as this innovation within DeFi? What are you noticing from a venture standpoint?
Yeah, it's a great question. On the VC side, infrastructure is still the #1 investment focus. Behind that is DeFi, and included in that, of course, is RWA. And we see a lot of the traditional players in the space. BlackRock just led a 47 million round Series A in Securitize. So the genie's out of the bottle here. And that, combined with institutional blessing that we had recently with the spot Bitcoin ETF being approved, this is just going to continue to grow. And I think tokenization is probably the single most interesting space right now in digital assets because of the potential. Everything from real estate to cars, collectibles, art. The potential is really enormous here. And as one of the earlier panelists said, we are tremendously early, and it's just going to keep on growing, both domestically in the US, but also internationally, because this really depends on the regulatory regimes. And we're seeing that in APAC, in MENA, in Singapore, in Hong Kong. These jurisdictions are moving a lot faster than the US. And in the US, it's a lot of regulation by enforcement from the SEC, by Gary Gensler. So different jurisdictions are sometimes even more promising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely and the part that attracted me maybe the most to the space was the global nature. Like, we got people from all over the world. I'm from, the US. So I think all of us are from the US, actually. So ironically, we all made the trip to Lisbon. Yeah, it's unusual for, I guess, this space, because we've got a lot of, with a French company, and so it's the global nature of the space is what really first drew me in. So Brian, I'm curious with I mean, we've had a lot of discussions on like real world assets. When you put these physical assets on chain, kind of what dynamics shift? How do you assess on-chain data? Like what does on-chain data unlock as far as the world of real world assets goes?
That's a really good question. So we've been able to democratize the flow of information, and on-chain analytics is unique to crypto in that now we're able to see deposits and withdrawals happening in real time. And with that, we're able to see accumulations and distributions of these larger institutions as it's happening. And so retail traders have been at a disadvantage when it comes to that flow of information. Most users are at home looking at candlesticks on a chart or looking at OpenSea, or they're watching the FOMC, CPI data, or earnings reports. While counterparties have access to tools like Bloomberg terminals and their institutional colleagues. It's incredibly exciting to see what the data aspect of bringing art on chain unlocks.
Yeah. Like, I guess because there's some, like we've also discussed with luxury watches per se. Chrono24, is that right? That's the website.
24.
So Chrono24 has kind of a simplistic chart that you can watch the value of a watch at any given moment. But it's, like I said, simplistic. How do you envision with when you put, let's say, a diamond ring on chain? How does that evolve the space? Being able to see that data.
I think the biggest factor when you're buying authentic pieces is that you want to make sure that you're not buying a clone, right? And it's extremely hard to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. And as technology like AI starts to evolve, it's going to get that much harder to be able to authenticate certain items. But blockchain actually solves this because you can take an item and you can timestamp an event on the blockchain, and it can't be manipulated, it can't be changed, and it's there forever.
Yeah, it's I'm excited to see, knowing some of the behind the scenes of what is being worked on. I'm excited to see being able to track those assets on chain and what that looks like. Jordan, I'll shift to you as far as what you've got going with Ape Chain and Full Moon Labs. Outside of maybe Ape Chain, what are some fun things that you have?
So right now, we just started up Full Moon Labs a few weeks ago. So we are, heads down on the launch of Ape Chain. It's going to be a massive project. There's dozens of groups involved with this, looking to integrate, and we're kind of the facilitator in between that, managing all of that. But beyond that, we're going to be looking to do this with other groups as well too, and take some of the learnings on what we're doing right now, building a brand new chain with all of the cutting edge user incentives, cutting edge organizations around what types of infrastructure tools are there and everything, and be able to do that on a lot of other chains. Because one of the trends that we've been seeing a lot in the industry is that a lot of groups are wanting to build their own chains. And this has kind of been unlocked by some of the technology that's come out of the biggest players, right? So for example, you're seeing the big one that launched a while ago was Base launching off of Optimisms, right? But now there's tons of other, super chains that are launching, right? You have with ZK Sync, you got their Hyperledgers. And then on our end, we're built on an Orbit chain and Arbitrum. And Arbitrum already has probably well over a dozen Orbit chains and growing. So, there's going to be a massive demand in the future of different groups that really want to focus on their community or focus on their product and don't want to deal with all of the complexities that are Web3 of like, what Oracle do I choose? What bridge is the right bridge for my customers, that type of stuff. And, that's where we kind of can step in and work with the technical provider, which is a RAS roll-up as a service provider, to kind of do all that work and let those communities focus on what they're good at, what their core competencies, building out their communities too.
Yeah, and I can imagine that it's a different kind of a different beast to work with a DAO versus say like a centralized entity.
Absolutely. It's very similar to politics, actually, right? So, anytime you want to get anything done, there's all sorts of different players. There's the institutional players who you got to get on board, but then there's the whales that you got to get on board. But then, hey, you're worried about the crypto Twitter, average holders who might rise up and say, hey, I hate that idea, kill it, and then everybody else flips on it. So managing that, and the key to it actually is transparency and getting out there with telling everybody why you're doing what you're doing and doing it for the right reasons. And honestly, I think in some ways it's a lot better than alternatives that we see in the industry. I do think that, one thing that I would love to see change in the future is to change this paradigm of one token, one vote. Because in actuality, one token, one vote really leads to an oligarchy.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that that's always great. And in some ways that ends up, allowing very large players to extract value from the smaller members of a community. So I've been seeing a lot of people with a lot of brand new ideas around governance that I'm looking forward to seeing experimentations on other DAOs and other chains and seeing how that develops.
Yeah, and we could, if we wanted to, we could have a 3-hour discussion just on governance. Maybe long. We could do the whole conference on governance. But we'll save that for another time, another conference. How about that? We're kind of wrapping up on time, so let's go real quick. If you have any closing thoughts, and then we'll go back around the room. Spencer.
Yeah, I think my closing thought is I totally agree with these guys. Tokenization is absolutely the future, but in order for tokenization to work, you need two main things. One, regulations globally to be friendly to it. And two, you need builders, people with ideas to make this easy and not complicated, so everybody around the world can easily access this. So, go over to ApeCoin. Anybody who owns a single ape can make a proposal for funding to go build something. So if you guys have an idea and you want to move it forward, come join us.
Yeah, I'll just want to finish by saying I'd love to meet any entrepreneurs in the room. Plug and Play is the most active VC in the world. So we make equity investments, and we're really active in the Web3 space, including with Blockdaemon being our unicorn. And Plug and Play has 67 offices in 34 countries. We're in every single continent outside of Australia. So we have a really international presence. And I also just want to say, outside of maybe like a Techstars or an Antler or some of the Y Combinator accelerators that you're familiar with, Plug and Play is completely pro bono, completely equity free. So it's much more founder friendly, and we're not as aggressive where we dilute founders, and yeah, much friendlier in that manner. So I'd love to connect with all the startup founders, and thank you again, Zachary, for the invite.
Of course, yeah. I can attest to all that he says too, as far as Plug and Play goes, top notch, as far as venture, incubation, all of that stuff. So, Brian, go ahead.
Closing thoughts. We're living in a new era where digital assets, crypto, and blockchain become a vehicle to bring people together. Use cases beyond TradFi, creating new conversations and opportunities. The technology is here, it's evolving rapidly, and it's not going anywhere. So the Chain Stats public beta platform is getting ready to go live soon, along with the Stats utility token. I'll be hanging out in the back for a few minutes if you guys want to come up and ask some questions. And thank you guys so much for your time.
All right, everyone, please give a round of applause to our panelists. I don't know where the mics go. We have a gift for y'all, so we'd love to take a picture real quick. Audience, if you want to go get some water, take a break, we'll be back in about 5 minutes for our panel number 3. Let me check my notes. It's a community-centered panel discussion, so see y'all in about 5 minutes.